First, a situation in Florida that has garnered national attention, maybe for all the wrong reasons here. Several members of a Philadelphia youth football team who traveled south for a championship game, got sacked with criminal charges instead of vying for a trophy before their trip back home. Polk County, Florida Sheriff Grady Judd is here with me now. Thank you so much for your time.
It's my honor to be with you and all of Chicago today.
So let's just first start by going over what went down. What happened?
Well, first and foremost, this football team, the Thoroughbreds, were here to play for a championship game, as you explained. Well, on Saturday morning, they were in a short-term rental and without adult supervision took two Ubers down to one of the Dick's Sporting Goods at a big mall we have. And they paired off into four groups and they went into this sporting goods store and started stealing. They stole over $2,000 worth of merchandise, over 47 different items. And of course, Dick's Sporting Goods, which has great security, notified the sheriff's office. We immediately arrested all 8 of them. Now, they should have been preparing for their championship game Saturday night, but instead they were at Dick's Sporting Goods without adult supervision stealing. So we notified the coach. The coach showed up and asked us not to charge them. Oh, don't charge them. We said, hey, we don't know how you deal with this stuff in Philadelphia, but when you steal from a store in Florida, and especially our county, Polk County, you go to jail or juvenile lockup. Then he asked management. He said, oh, don't press charges. Well, too late for that as well, because this is not kids stealing bubble gum that need a little coaching. This is organized retail crime by juveniles of all people. So then the coach turns on us and says, I can't believe y'all don't have anything better to do. Well, we had other things to do, but the number one thing we had to do was arrest a bunch of football players stealing. Now think about it. The rest of the team's doing what's right, and they're back preparing for the game. And these 8 guys ruined it for all the rest of the team and the kids. That's why I call them the thoroughbred thieves. They lost the game that night, 26-6 to Cocoa. That team did what was right. Oh, by the way, this 8 weren't on the field. They were in lockup.
Yeah, so these are 14 and 15-year-olds, and I think, yeah, if we all look back to when we were 14 and 15, we made some stupid decisions for sure, but there's so many different layers to this. Let's go over some of the things that were stolen. Do you remember? I have a list in case you don't have the list of things that were stolen.
I don't have the list with me, but I know that there were jackets, there were clothes, there were a lot of different things, and some of them were very expensive, but altogether they added up to be over $2,200.
Yeah, and there had to be some thought process through all of this. I mean, it didn't kind of happen out of the blue for them to take the Uber over. As I understand it, they like split up into 2 groups to come in and do this. So I'm seeing like Nike men's fleece hoodies, beanies, a watch hat, running jackets, wristband, a lip guard, football gloves, turf tape, a football shield, and just so much more. Again, like you said, that totaled up to, there's even underwear on the list here, that totaled up to over $2,000. So, you wonder why they did what they did. I would like to ask you, did it seem like the kids understood the weight of the situation? These are felony retail theft charges, is that right?
Absolutely. There were 2 different charges: conspiracy to commit organized retail crime theft and grand theft. And yes, they understood what they were doing. They were very well coordinated, and none of them wanted to talk to us. Well, we don't need you to talk to us. We've got it all on videotape. And that's what I don't understand in this day and age. Every place you go, you're on camera. So we've got great camera footage. We also have our deputies who caught them in the act, as well as store security. So the bottom line to it is, I want to know, where was the adult supervision? And then when adult supervision got there, the then he tried to make excuses and talk them out of it as opposed to holding them accountable. That's not adult leadership.
Yeah, and I guess, obviously, I haven't spoken with the coach. I don't know their line of thinking, but I know that coaches sometimes are like a first or second father to a lot of young men, and maybe they looked at accountability differently, that accountability could have been outside of the legal system. None of these kids had prior criminal arrest histories here. So what happens next for them?
Sure. In our system, we have a forgiving criminal justice system when you make mistakes. When you do an intentional act, there's consequences. Now, they won't be sent to a program or in lockup for 6 months or a year because this is their first event in Florida. But they may very well receive probation. They will receive the community service and work. They may have to pay back the cash for what they did. There will be consequences and accountability. And that's the problem in many places across the United States. There's not accountability and consequences. And if there's not, then the kids think, well, it's okay to do it if I'm not held accountable. Well, they are in Florida and they are in our county. So at the end of the day, we want them to grow up to be thriving, prosperous young men. And that starts with being responsible for your actions.
I certainly think that sentiment is true, however you see getting to that point here. So do they have to come back to Florida to face these charges, or do they do it from Philadelphia?
Oh, no, they'll get to come back. They're going to make another trip to the Sunshine State. This time, they need not to think about stealing stuff. They need to think about retribution. They need to think about making sure that they do what's right and they pay back for their transgression in the state of Florida.
Yeah. So the coach said in an interview that I saw, it ruined a good thing for the entire team. And you kind of intimated the same thing there. I think the overall situation, their choices that these young men made and the overall situation ruined a good thing. It should have been a good moment, a good memory for so many people on the team. Did you get to talk to any of these young men? I mean, again, outside of the perspective of you're going to lock up, but as to the lessons that they need to learn from this situation?
Yeah, this is a very large sheriff's office. We're over 2,000 employees, so I don't get to engage in the individual arrest. But the reality is simply this: that 8 kids ruined it for the rest of those wonderful kids that wanted to come down here and play football and win a national championship in this league. That 8 kids ruined it. They need to be held accountable not only by the criminal justice system here, but they need to be held accountable at the league level. I'm not sure that that's going to occur based upon what the coach was doing and the way he was acting, and then he turned on us like, that's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I guess again, if you're a coach, you're fighting for your team, and especially for these young men not to have, if they have not had a criminal history before, not to end up with a criminal history, regardless of the situation, whether it was right or wrong. I'm not saying whether it was right or wrong, but I could see a coach fighting for these young men not to end up with criminal charges and maybe to address it some other way. So what do you think? Some of the lessons for young people who are watching this situation. I mean, we have young kids who are in, a lot of youth sports in Chicago that are that head down to Florida every year for these championship games, or from any other part of the country. If you're speaking to young kids who are coming down for these championship games each year, what do you say to them?
Well, I tell them we welcome them in the state of Florida. We're excited for them to come here. We believe in youth sports. We work heavily and diligently in youth sports to offer kids the opportunity to improve and to teach life lessons. But the reality is you've got to obey the law. You've got to follow the law. You've got to do what's right for your teammates and for the community. And believe you me, if you come here and violate the law, this is Florida. We will hold you accountable and responsible, so don't do it. Come here, have a good time. We'll make sure there's an environment for you to have a good time. Our crime is at a 53-year low here. because we don't suffer criminals gladly. So you'll come here, you'll be safe, you'll have fun, and don't do what these 8 kids did and ruin it for the rest of the team.
Yeah. Sheriff Judd, have you ever had an instance like this during the championship weekend, or anything that kind of rose to this level? I think that obviously in a generation where we have social media and we have the ability to Zoom with you from Florida, obviously things go a lot further, a lot faster. But have you had another situation like this in that particular weekend?
You know, I don't know that I have ever seen where that many kids got in trouble at one time. Oh, occasionally there's kids that make wrong decisions, but never a coordinated effort by that many people. I've not seen that before. And this is not a small county. Our county's almost 1 million people, and we're right in the heart of Central Florida, between Tampa and Orlando. So we entertain and have a lot of sports teams that come here because we do a lot with our community and with our children, and we welcome people from throughout the United States. We want them to come here and have a good time. It's safe here. That's why people like to come here. But we don't suffer criminals gladly.
Yeah, and have you heard from your office? Have you all heard from the business owner?
Do you know the business is a large professional sporting goods store?
Right.
And we have an organized retail crime task force that works with not only them, but with all of the big box stores. And there's zero tolerance here. If you're caught stealing, you get arrested, you either go to jail or you go to juvenile lockup. There's zero tolerance. And then we let the criminal justice system sort it out after that. You can't beat the ride in Polk County.
Yeah, I just wondered, what their ongoing situation is, because so many businesses, that line of losing merchandise is very slim for them. The margin is very slim for them in terms of what they lose versus how that gets transferred over to all the rest of us who love shopping in a Dick's Sporting Goods. So I wondered if this was an ongoing type of thing that they have to face, this was a situation that they came to you all to say, hey, no, it's gone too far.
Well, here's the issue. This Dick's Sporting Goods, and they're very professional and really a remarkable place to shop, is right on the interstate. So sometimes people think they can jump off the interstate, still jump back on the interstate and take off. So as a result of that, there's very robust security in and around all of the businesses on the what we call the I-4 corridor, the Interstate 4 corridor. Dick's does a remarkable job. My deputies were actually in the parking lot when the call came in because we heavily patrol, especially during the Christmas time, because we want everyone safe and to feel safe so that they can shop with the merchants. And as you say, when they can't absorb the shrinkage. So when somebody steals, you and I pay for it.
Yeah, that is how it goes. And unfortunately for these young men, some lessons are harder than others. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
All right, may God bless you. Merry Christmas.
Same to you as well. It's 1:16, everyone. Let's take a quick break.